Hello and welcome to the Irish Arsenal GOONER podcast. It's Tuesday, the 1st of February. I'm your host, as always, Jonathan Giles. This week, I'm joined by my season ticket holders and regular guests, as always, John Meany, Eamonn Donnelly, Eric Shadowins, and a new guest, Ralph Hassan-Huttle of the Supporters podcast, Martin Stummvoll. Welcome to the show, Martin.
Hi, how's it going? All right, nice to meet you.
Martin, of course, has created our YouTube podcast channel, and he also done the intro as well, which is quite good. So I'd like to thank Martin again for kicking us on there. We've had an extra 30 listeners due to that, so onwards and upwards, Martin.
Good stuff, yeah.
All we need is the cash to come in, and we're rolling. Right. On this week's show, actually, before I start, it's rude not to say that we're on Spotify and SoundCloud as always, and you can catch our show on the YouTube, Dublin Arsenal Supporters Club YouTube channel. So that's where you can catch us as always. On this week's show, we're going to be talking about the transfer window just gone, or the lack of. Absolutely no one in, but plenty out. So we'll be talking about that, and a midterm season review as well in the second half of the show, as the Wolves game isn't until next Thursday, so we'll be previewing that next Tuesday. So that's our main topics for tonight, and hopefully you enjoy the next half hour or so in our company. So we kick off the show with the January transfer window. Of course, the big one was yesterday was Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang going to Barcelona on a free transfer. I think it's saving us around £15 million in his wages. I'm surprised we didn't hold out for a fee, but what's gone on, I suppose, since he hasn't played since December the 6th, so it wasn't much of a surprise that he was going out the door, but I didn't think he'd go on a free transfer, but that was that. And of course, over the month of January, we lost Ainsley Maitland-Niles on loan to Roma. Saka Kolasinac went to Marseille on a free. Last Thursday, Callum Chambers went to Aston Villa on a free. Pablo Marie went to Udinese on a loan deal, and also Folarin Balogun went to Middlesbrough on a loan. They were the major outs, and we signed a lad. I don't know, I haven't heard anything about him. Trusty from Colorado Rapids. I absolutely know nothing about him. I think he's a defender, but I'm sure we'll ask the lads maybe might know more about him than I do. I'll come to Martin first, since we're new to the show, Martin. What do you make of the Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang transfer to Barcelona?
Well, what can you say? Like, I mean, it's a long-lasting issue, you know. So I think we just cut our clots, and that's just going. Because what else would we have done with him? I don't think he would have been able to, especially after going into Barcelona, to do another winger, you know, like and waiting in the car for like something to happen. So yeah, I think like, look, he had to take cuts probably. He's on a free. It doesn't cost us. We saved 25 million euros for the 1.5 years he's not with us. I don't think he would have ever played again. So he would have gone somewhere on loan, and we would have paid his wages maybe. I don't know. So he's gone to Barcelona. That's it. We just have to move on. He had good, 2.5 years, what I had in Instagram. The rest, forget about it. Once he got his wage pack, I think he just never turned up. Probably a lot to do as well with, like, he got malaria, he got COVID, you know, it just, I never had malaria, but like, I mean, supposed to be long lasting. So you never know what it does to his form. But look, he's gone. I knew when he came from Dortmund that this is going to happen, because like there was trouble from Dortmund when he went to Arsenal. So he's that kind of player. So look, we got the best out of him, I presume. It cost us a lot of money, but now I think we just end to it, like, you know, he's gone. That's it. So now we just have to see where the goals are coming from, you know. So we'll see.
Yeah, of course. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, we signed him in 2018 in the January transfer window. His stats was 92 goals in 163 games. He cost £56 million. So in terms of his return of goals, it was quite good. He won the Golden Boot in 2019. He shared that with Mane and Salah. And of course, he got the winning goal, the second goal, certainly, against Chelsea in the FA Cup in 2020. So he did give us a lot. He scored 20 odd goals in, I think, 2019-20, and then the following season, it was just last season he had a bad return of goals, and this season just didn't kick on for some reason. So I did quite like him as a striker, you know, and like he did give us a lot of good moments. Eric, what did you make of it?
Yeah, so I think I want to start with a step back and just say, like, from a transfer perspective, spending 50 odd million on a striker, 60 million, I guess, on a striker like Aubameyang at the age that he was at, is pretty ambitious, right? Because you're going to get a limited amount of years out of him. If you compare it to guys like from this transfer window gone by, where Ben White, you're not necessarily looking at just 4 or 5 years out of him. You're potentially looking at even more. So I think just from a process and strategy standpoint, you can kind of see how Arsenal's trying to roll back some mistakes of the past. I think in terms of Aubameyang, Martin covered it. It's not the first time he's kind of had issues with managers or otherwise. Now, what actually happened, I don't think that we have full information, and ultimately, like, we probably never know exactly what happened and why Arteta's just kind of decided to move on, and the club's decided to move on from him. But it's sort of done and dusted. I think at the point that they took the captain's armband from him, he wasn't coming back from that. And so at that point, it's damage limitation. Get him off the books because you're paying him a ton of money. And I think that's all this was. In terms of how I look at it, I think the real question is more about how we didn't replace him, or at least try to add some goals to the team, because it's not just a problem for right now. Well, it certainly is a problem for right now, but we're walking into the summer with both Lacazette and Eddie leaving on a free. So even if Balogun's coming back, we're probably looking at having to spend 100 million on 2 different strikers. Plus, if you're talking about a midfielder, so we'll see if we actually do that. But I just think that from a strategy and sequencing standpoint, I'm pretty surprised we didn't at least try to find an improvement on Nketiah, who hasn't scored a Premier League goal this season. And so to my mind, I think that's also another issue. As I look at this, I'm like, Aubameyang was supposed to at least have 1 more year, but now we're in a place where we literally have no strikers going into next season. So I just wonder about why we didn't try to at least bring in a little bit of depth there. And I'm sure we did try, but certainly I think that there's we've created a new problem for ourselves.
Yeah, I was just looking at the Arsenal website before I come on to Eamonn. Aubameyang left the club by mutual consent. So that irons that out. So his career was pretty much after December the 6th. I think it was the Everton game, wasn't it? That night that was the night he was stripped of the captaincy and due to disciplinary. So it leaves us with Lacazette and Nketiah, and they're both looks like they're both out the door come the summer maybe as well. So it's a bit worrying. Eamonn, what did you make of the whole thing?
Evening, Jonathan. There's Martin there. There's Hassan Hilton heading them there. Well, look, first of all, I'm delighted Aubameyang's gone. And even with no replacement. I would rather Aubameyang gone with no replacement than Aubameyang stay, because he wouldn't be playing. And we're going to have to invest heavily in the summer. And we've saved 25 million as the figure that will be available to us to purchase somebody. And I'd rather that we got no replacement than some careless kick a ball that wouldn't have been a solution. Because I think we've done that in the past. Lucas Perez springs to mind.
Yeah.
Just not good enough, Yeah. I think I don't really worry that Lacazette and Nketiah are out of contract in the summer, because if you look at Lacazette's attitude, and actually Lacazette, who was quite pally with Aubameyang, I thought his reaction to Aubameyang being grounded was very instructive, in that he seems to have given more of an effort since Aubameyang was carpeted, and that says a lot about the man. So I'm comfortable with Aubameyang gone. The problem with him staying was that I think he's toxic, and if you're trying to blood a young team full of energy that's going to have warts and all of that, I don't think he's good to have around the place. He didn't try a leg for the last season and a half, right? And I'm glad to be shut of him. We'll probably get talking about the striker situation in a few minutes, but you know, the club is definitely thinking of the future. We invested heavily in terms of youth. We invested heavily in that lad Beirut. We literally prized him from Fulham. I think he's going to feature next year. He's a strong guy, you know. Yeah. I think he's much more advanced than we think he is. He's probably stronger than Balogun in terms of physicality. He's a different type of centre forward than Balogun, and I think he'll be in the first team next year. So I think we're going to be faced with the prospect of having to land a big money top striker if we can get one in the summer. But I just want to respond to all the Twitter mania. By the way, you do realise that you've now got the entire riverbar moderates faction of the Arsenal Supporters Club, Dublin Arsenal Supporters Club, on your show. We're the ones that get all the brickbats, and you know, we look at all the lunacy around us as if we were running the club. You know, I just want to explain to the listeners, we have a hand in running the Supporters Club, not the football club. Just to say that to people. But what I do want to say is this: people say, "Well, did we try?" We did try to get Vlahovic, but we knew he wasn't going to come. Right? The player made that clear. The agents made it clear. I do understand there was an inquiry about Isaac, but if you were Real Sociedad, what do? You're not going to sell him, because they're in the exact same position we are. And I hear these people go, "No, we should have just paid the money for Isaac. Go out and get him." Well, what are you going to do? Go out and kidnap him? You know, be like something now, Goodfellas, put him in the back of the car. He's not coming because he plays for a team that he's under long-term contract to. They know what he's going to be worth in the summer. They were never going to sell him. It'd be just like, for example, if somebody came, if Sociedad came along to us and said, "You know what, we'll give you 60 million for Bukayo Saka. What do you think?" Imagine if Arsenal said, "Grand, give it up. Do we take the 60 million? What would the meltdown be like then? So this is not FIFA manager. This is the long-term future of the club. I would have loved to see a replacement striker. We may, even though he's not my favourite, an Alvaro Morata on a loan or something might have got us out of a hole, you know, and we're in a hole. But I'd rather be in a hole without the poison around the place that could have been left there. And the one thing I'd say is we have a foot race now with 17 games left, but at least all of that nonsense is out of the way now. We know what we're facing. We have the possibility. I mean, how many people, when Martinelli wasn't getting the game, were saying, "Oh, he doesn't rate him. He doesn't rate him. He's not going to ever give him a chance. We're going to lose him." And we were screaming out, "Put Martinelli up top." You know, so he's going to have to find internal solutions. And I think, and I'll finish on this, I think Nicolas Pepe is going to feature. Because because he's fresh, he hasn't played much. I know Arteta is very concerned about his first touch and all of that, but John has said this on several occasions. There's danger in him, you know.
There is.
So if we could get a kind of across the top line of Saka, Lacazette, Martinelli, Odegaard behind them, Smith Rowe, there's goals there. But you know, we've just got to find a different way of playing. But Aubameyang wasn't going to play. Isaac was never going to come because Sociedad weren't going to let him go. And kidnapping is illegal. And also Vlahovic, well, we predicted about him. So I'm not too downbeat about it. We have a 17 game run now, and we know what we have, and let's get on with it.
Yeah, before I move on to John, I completely agree there. I think this second half of the season is a great chance for Martinelli, Pepe, and Lacazette to really hit on and get banging in the goals, because it's all up to them now. It's on their plate now. John, what did you make of the whole transfer deadline day?
Um,
or lack of?
we put all our eggs in one basket going after Vlahovic, and I'll applaud the club for aiming high. But as Eamonn says, I think we predicted this just wasn't going to happen. He always wanted to go to Juventus. He wanted to stay in Italy. You could say you're disappointed with the club for not having a serious plan B. But, you know, when you think about it, there's not a huge amount of top-class leading centre forwards out there, and it gives us an extra couple of months to at least try and get a scouting going. As on the Aubameyang thing, I think all the lads were all on the same page. He had to go. When you spend that kind of money, as Eric said, on a 28, 29-year-old, and then give him a huge extension, you know, a huge wage on an extension, you were never going to get a transfer fee anyway. So you're cutting your losses. Don, I wish him well. Good luck. As Eamonn said, we save a big wad of money, and that can be invested in the transfer window in the summer. The disciplinary issues. He's not a kid. He's an international. He's played at a high level. To have that kind of disciplinary issues, you don't want around the club. This is as Eric said earlier, this is a product of a really, really bad transfer policy. The latter years of Wenger and Gazidis and Sanley, and hopefully we're putting all that to bed. Last summer, I thought we done really good business in the summer. But they seem to have a plan. They're all on the same page, working towards it, trying to clear out the dead wood. The last big transfer that hasn't worked is Pepe, and I think that's purely down to the transfer fee. If we'd spent 25, 30 million on him, I don't think there'd be any complaints on him. There is a talent in that player. But this is just the club getting ourselves into the position financially to, you know, progress instead of having huge wages on the board. Let's have some sensible wages, some sensible thinking. I am disappointed we didn't have a plan B in the striker. Top four is doable. It's attainable. There's a mad scramble for that last spot. The start of the season, I don't think anyone's really seriously thought we'd be competing for it. And it's goals that's going to win that. I just don't know. I just don't know whether we have enough goals. I know we're going to talk about a state of the play, how the league is going later on in the show. But as far as Aubameyang's gone, yeah, he's gone. It's good. He's good luck to him. Bye.
Yeah, I have to say, I kind of have a bit of respect for Aubameyang the way he left by mutual consent, because he could have stayed at Arsenal till season's end, collected 350 grand a week, and that play kick a ball like Vincent Bogart done for Chelsea. He went a whole 2 seasons and just sat there on the bench taking his wage package, you know. So look, in fairness to him, he saved us a lot of money wages wise, and look, it just didn't work out from with Arteta, you know. Some players say eye to eye with managers and some don't. And look, he wanted to join another big European club before his career ends. So
well, he missed that chance.
I think Barcelona, he calls them a big club, but I think that's past now. Sadly, I can't see Barcelona being a big club for a long time to come. You know, they're going through a lot of problems. But like we say, we're a big club. We're going through. We're a long way off coming back as well. But we're in the right direction, I think. You know, there's actually a vision now, which we hadn't seen for a long time. So, look, best of luck to Aubameyang. He gave us a lot of goals and he done what he had to do. But look, the last 2 seasons just didn't work out for him. In terms of last Thursday, Callum Chambers went on a free. Did any of you see it coming? I'll come to Martin again.
No, I mean, I think probably if you look at all the outgoings, like that was kind of like the biggest shock, I presume. Like, I mean, not that he featured much, but I think he's a player. He can play a lot of places. So he's not like just like a left back, or he's a centre back. He can even play in midfield if you need him. So yeah, it was a bit of a shock that he's gone compared to the rest. But and look, I think he as well sees he doesn't play much. So like, I mean, they're all footballers. They all have a business to run themselves. Like, you know, they're not getting any younger. They have to make some money. So they want to play, you know, he might want to get in the English team. So I don't know if he ever does again, but yeah. But again, he had to take just said, yeah, okay, we let go. I think why we didn't get a striker is that's because like that Aubameyang actually took that long. You know, it was like, what was it, 2 hours before closing the window? I think if that would have happened in the morning, there might have been something happening. Nothing crazy, I don't think, but like there might have been a chance we get somebody, but I think it was all too late. But yeah, anyway, coming back to Chambers, look, he's a good player. He's not world class. I don't think he has much chance getting into a team if you're a full strength team, but he's a good backup. So yeah, he probably wouldn't, because like we are not only in midfield now, we only have like what, 3 centre backs. That's it. So we are a bit light at the back. So yeah,
we like
again,
different dangerous.
yeah. So well, dangerous is like it's a good word for it, isn't it? But yeah, look, it is, again, it is what it is. He had to look after himself. Like the club said yes. I don't think we've ever been in for a centre back anyway.
No.
So kind of a strange. But then again, in the summer, like we're gonna get it back from what's his name, Saliba, hopefully.
Yeah.
If he comes back. So
Yeah.
we're kind of getting covered. But yeah, look, we have 17 games to go. We have no European football. We have no distractions. So we should be able, the squad we have, if nothing strange happens, then we can get through it. So yeah, good luck to him at Villa. So hopefully he gets a game time.
Yeah, very versatile player, all right. He done quite well on loan at Fulham a couple of seasons ago, but
yeah,
I think we got rid of a lot of dead wood maybe on loan in that window, in fairness. We signed a lad, I come to early, we signed a lad called Austin Trusty from Colorado Rapids. That's one of Kroenke's teams in the US. Early. Do you know much about this lad?
I mean, I know a little bit about him just because he's been called up for the US national team
Right.
Once in a while, but I don't think he's ever actually been capped for them. He played at the underage level. He's a defender. I don't think he'll ever play for Arsenal. It seems like the deal just seemed a bit suspicious, the way they sort of kind of announced it, but didn't actually announce it. And the announcement said they're gonna loan him out.
Yeah, so, he's back on loan actually today.
Yeah,
so yeah.
But then I think it said like he would join up in the summer and then be loaned out again or something along those lines. So to my mind, like this doesn't seem like he's necessarily a serious prospect. Even in terms of like the U.S. men's national team, he wasn't a big prospect either. So the only signing we sort of haven't talked about is it sounds like it's pretty confirmed that Matt Turner, the goalkeeper from the New England Revolution, also an MLS team, is going to come in the summer when Leno goes.
Okay.
And I would just say, he's a really good shot stopper. He's somebody who has a good bit of experience, bringing him in as backup in kind of competition for Ramsdale is going to be fine. I think he can do a job there. But I think it's clear Ramsdale's the number one going forward.
And another transfer just away from Arsenal, going to Eamonn. Aaron Ramsey to Rangers. Quite bizarre one, I thought. It shows how his career has gone downhill. It hasn't worked out for him at Juventus. It's really since leaving Arsenal, that hasn't really worked out at all. I think he left in 2019. I've seen Jack Wilshere has a squad number now, 12. What's the chances, Eamonn, do you think, of Jack Wilshere? Do you think Wilshere come on board for us for the rest of the season, or do you think he's just training with us?
Well, he's a free agent, so he can go at any time to anybody. So I think on balance, no, I don't think he will.
What do you make the Ramsey?
Well, he needed to play football,
For the World Cup ahead,
he needed to play football. But I just wanted to comment on these American footballers. I mean, one of them is Trusty and the other's a Turner. You know, I think we need to examine that. The next fella could be kind of gracious, and the next fella could be humble, and all of that. Anyway, Aaron Ramsey is a decent guy. He's full of the right stuff. He had a terrific career with the Arsenal against very pressing circumstances with the injury and that. Great time for him. He's a very humble guy. I just think he wants to play football. I don't think he's a flash hardy millionaire. I think he wants to get playing, and if that opportunity breaks from him, I wish him the very best of luck. The only issue I have with the people we let go, I just want to come back to Callum Chambers for a second. He's been with us now for 8 or 9 years, right? And there's been 2 loan periods. And I actually like the boy. Again, another humble lad who you'd like, you know, to have around the place. But he only made 122 appearances for us, right? And yes, he can play right full, but you see the difficulty with that is he was much easier to move on than Cedric, right? Who's going to buy Cedric at 30 years of age on that wage? Nobody, right? So yeah, and Cedric is as decent to back up as Callum Chambers at right fullback. You know, you don't lose too much one way or the other. One day Cedric has a good game. You say he doesn't look too bad. Another day he's terrible.
Eamonn,
I don't accept. I don't know whether it was Martin or Eric that said it. Martin, I think it was, that you could play. Martin, it was that you could play Chambers in midfield. I mean, that's a bit like asking a frog to win the Olympic swimming. You know, he cannot play in midfield. He's dire in midfield. He's crap. You know, but he's a good lad. I'm delighted that he got a good move that I think might work for him. You know, although we'll see how many games he gets up there. The only player I have an issue with going is Ainsley Maitland-Niles. And I understand why, because we spoke about it on the show before that, you know, the lad was probably on a promise that if he didn't break into the team, and I think Arteta probably showed his human side by doing that. But are you telling me El Neni is better than Maitland-Niles? No, not by a long shot. You know, I watched El Neni playing for Egypt against Morocco in what I could only call, it was a woeful game, and I don't know whether anybody saw it, but the whole game, and then his touch was all over the gaff. He spent more time roaring at the referee, and I'm sick of him. But anyway, Maitland-Niles, the rest of the players that we let go, none of them, they barely made the squad all season, so it's no big deal. In terms of the centre half position, where we do now look a bit light numbers wise, I think if we ran into trouble there, I think we'd cancel one or two of the loans. You know, Harry Clark at Hibernian definitely could be brought in as backup. I'm not sure what the loan situation with Saliba is, but you know, I remember we out of the blue we cancelled Francis Coquelin's loans. Remember that? And all of a sudden he stepped into the midfield and did a really good job for us when he had to, you know. So I think, I mean, look, the guys that run the club, we might give out about them, but they're not complete gobshites, you know. So they have to know. They have to know that if you've only got 3 centre halves and 2 of them get injured, there has to be something available to you. There has to be, you know. So look, we'll see how it goes. It's only 17 games. We don't have 29 games.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a small bit of gambling on behalf of the club. But I think, a bit like John, I think that the gamble has been taken in good faith, that we're moving in a particular direction. We're not going to throw stupid, short patchwork solutions at it. And we're going to keep building, and hopefully the summer will reflect that, you know.
Going to John, aside from the transfer window, do you think with Nicolas Pepe coming back from the African Nations Cup, he's had a quite good African Nations Cup from what I've seen there over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Do you think this is his last chance this second half of the season to show what he's about? Do you think that's
Yeah, I in fairness, I think it's possibly a chance for him to put himself in the market as much as anything else.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. He is. I've always thought he's an option off the bench. I'm really been surprised and kind of disappointed he hasn't had more chances off the bench.
Yeah.
But no, I think if he plays any part in the last 17 games, it's going to be a case of shop window. Let's see if he can attract the right club. If I go back to the centre half position, I'm not worried about it. Tommy Asho and Tierney both play centre half for their countries, so you know I'm not worried about that at all. The big issue is striker. But Chambers, I think contact up in the summer. I've heard reports it wasn't free, an undisclosed fee. I've heard some reports of up to 2, maybe 3 million. Whatever it is, as Eamonn said, good lad. Just never take the grade and want him to do with Arsenal. Wish him the very best. I don't know if it's possible to get Saliba back. I think it was a 1-year season, a 1-season loan with no option of a callback. But again, I don't think he'll be needed. We'll see him in the summer, and hopefully he'll get his chance, and we'll get to see him in an Arsenal gig. So as for Pepe, I like him. I think there is something about him. There really is. I mean, when he scores, when he plays well, he's a really good player.
Good player, yeah. This thing is his consistency.
Too often he's stuck out on the wing, and the ball comes to him from a standing start. He needs a runner start on the ball, you know. And I'd like to see him switch to the left-hand side now and again.
Yeah.
But we're not going to get a £70 million back. There's not a chance in hell. So, but you might get some decent money. You know,
Newcastle might buy him for that.
Yeah, good call, Martin. Yeah, they seem to be throwing their cash around.
John, that's an interesting thing about you say about going out to the left. I think there was one away game last year at Southampton where he absolutely hacked up on that side.
Yeah,
it was Wolves.
Yeah.
It was against Wolves.
Yeah.
But Jonathan, he's a Ken Barlow player. You know,
so
frustrating, Deirdre.
I waited all show just for that one-liner.
You have to get that in. You have to get a bit of Ken in every show. You know. Can I just add something, because I think John's
you're not doing it in the American accent. Yeah, go ahead.
No, just to take John's point, I think it's really interesting, the idea that Pepe might go as well, right? If you think about all of the people out of contract, you know, Elneny's out of contract, Lacazette's out of contract, and Keddy is out of contract. If we sell Pepe, like, I mean, are we going to buy 10 players next window? You know, so I'm genuinely, you know, curious to see what we do, especially if we do make European football. Like, where is our depth going to be? How are we gonna make sure that we're able to kind of progress in those competitions? So, you know, and that's regardless of which European competition it ends up being. It's kind of a really interesting situation to see us to go this far to kind of clear out the team, because it certainly speaks to a huge need in the summer for a lot of investment, and we'll see kind of what the plan is there and how far it goes, but certainly I think that you know, if you just look at all the players that we've talked about leaving this window and potentially leaving in the summer, you know, including Leno and others, like, there's a huge amount of movement here, and yeah, like between strikers, potentially another midfielder, another right back, you know, unless we're gonna hang on to Cedric for another year.
1 year left.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Is it's a really kind of incredible amount of movement. Like, we've essentially totally revised the team once Lacazette's gone, and so to see how much are we actually going to spend for another midfielder versus, you know, two strikers that we potentially need, and if Pepe goes, do we need to get another attacker? Yeah, you know, out of the wings. I mean, it's really kind of coming to a point where it'll be really interesting to see how they put the puzzle pieces together in the summer.
Any more trust is in Colorado now?
So the owner's in a good mood this summer, you know. So
you'd get money for Pepe, you know.
I say you'd only be looking at 30-odd million, though.
It
depends, as Sean said, sorry, Eamonn. It depends on if he can bang in, say, 10, 15 goals come the end of the season, which he's capable of. That you can claw a lot of money back, you know.
You could, but I think the problem.
But realistically, he's probably just going to be going.
I think the problem with Pepe is that Arteta doesn't think that he has the smarts to do what he needs to do.
Yeah.
Week in, week out. So if we could get 30 million back on him, with the 25 million you've saved on Aubameyang, and the fact that you're going into the summer knowing that you've got to throw another 80 to 100 million at it, you know, you're talking about looking for one or two strikers and another midfield player. But I'm going to make a prediction here, right?
Here we go.
We have invested more than any other club in our youth infrastructure in recent years, right? And I'm going to say to you 4 names, right, that I believe will be on the first team next year, right? Omari Hutchinson, Pierre-Emerick, Aziz Balogun, and Patino. There's 5 players. Now, they won't be what will get you into the top 4. But what I'm saying to you is they will be part of the first team next year. So if you hold on, just hear me out now, right? Are you seriously telling me that Patino wouldn't be a better option than El Neni, for example, next year? Are you seriously telling me that Beirut wouldn't be a better option than Nketiah, right? I'm just saying to you, a squad is 25 players. I think we can have a very good first 15 next season by buying 2 or 3 players, right? But the squad is going to be made up by these lads coming through because we've invested heavily in them, you know?
Yeah.
I know people think I'm mad, but sure, look, but that's part of the course.
I actually think that's quite right. I mean, there's another few things are happening over these next couple of seasons. Like, it's the loan thing as well. They're going to reduce the loans that you can actually have. And I nearly fell off the chair when I seen that Chelsea had 43 players on loan. 43 players, you know, that's just mad. And they want to reduce this down, I think, next season to 8. And then, like, I think it's 4 the following season. So, like, you know, your team can't be that big anyway. And we do have, like, and exactly what you said, Hutchinson and Barrett, I think they're ready to play in the first team already. They might need to come up now, even for this season, because that's what they're going to be. They've been in the FA Cup, in the team, in the squad. They will definitely come, but we definitely need to buy some. The only thing what we have to hope for is that the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. If they win the Super Bowl, that might have the Kroenkes really the spending boots on for the summer. Very unlikely because he has to pay $5 billion for the stadium, but
but the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl because Cincinnati could not pull off what they pulled off twice in a row. They just couldn't, you know.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So, like, you know, look, they might put him in a better mood, and they might put in like 200-300 million, whatever, into the team. I don't know.
No.
It's not going to happen, but hopefully there's something there. Like, I mean, we reduced our team so much to the bone now that we actually have a bit of room to spend something.
Yeah.
So it's just like now they have to start now. They have to look. This window is going to be crucial.
But lads, we got 4 players. We got 4 players during the summer. Right? If we got another 4 players in the summer, if we got another 4 players in the summer, consistent with the profile of player we're looking for, all I'm saying is that the addition of these guys to make up the rest of the 25, why spend all the money on the academy that we're spending anyway, if you're not going to do that, you know? I mean, Bukayo Saka, for example, where did he come from? Where did Smith Rowe come from? You know? So I'm not as down. I think that we will have the capacity to add 3 or 4 players in the summer. It'll probably cost us another 150 million because the striker is going to cost us 60 or 70 of that, you know. But if that's what it is, that's what it is. So long as there's no 29-year-olds coming in at 60 million quid, that's not what this project is about, you know.
I have to say I love the optimism that all of a sudden all of these kids are going to turn out to be superstars.
No, it didn't. By the way, Eric, I never said at one stage that we wouldn't be relegated.
That's true.
Well, Mr. Optimistic.
I'm just telling you what's going to happen, mate.
But honestly, like I do think it's important. Like I certainly get, yes, we should be bringing players through and they should be making up the squad, but bringing 4 or 5 at a time just seems unlikely. It's somewhat unprecedented.
Eric, but in fairness, we spoke about this early in the season. Isn't this where missing out on Europe has cost us this season? Because we would have seen these players playing Europe. We said this at the start of the season. This is going to hold up these young players, and it has. Yeah. It has.
Absolutely, John. Absolutely. Absolutely. But can I ask you all a question? Yeah. The words dead wood have been mentioned a few times on the show, right? Yeah. What does that mean? That means players that are not good enough to feature. What have you got to lose by replacing players who can't even make the bench for a game by promising players from the academy? So it's not kind of a blind optimism, Eric. It's based on based on the fact that look at what they're replacing. That's where I'm going with this.
Yeah,
replacing El Neni, they're replacing Chambers, they're replacing, guys that just ain't Pablo Marley.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Look, I agree with you. I think that those are the players that the young players should be replacing.
Yes.
But the idea that, like if you think about the guys that are leaving, Lacazette and Nketiah are getting real time on the pitch, right?
Yeah.
Now, they're not necessarily producing, Lacazette more than Nketiah, but realistically, you're looking at two guys that are getting a lot of minutes. And I'm not sure I see any of those guys stepping in and getting.
You got a boy to replace them. You have the boy to replace them.
Sure. So that's still two strikers, right? And then are we still bringing in a Granit Xhaka replacement? Is he staying? Is he going? My only point is referring to the starting 11 and just saying there's a ton of work to do for that kind of 15, 16 core members of the squad, especially when you start talking about guys like Pepe potentially leaving, guys like Saka potentially leaving, Lacazette's gone, and Nketiah is gone. So look, in terms of the overall 25, throw all the homegrown talent in the back end of the bench. Great. All good there. I just think that as you look at that starting 11 and those guys that are going to come on and make a difference in the 60th and 70th minute, there's a ton of investment that's going to have to happen. And do I hope Hutchinson turns into the next Saka and just comes in and it turns out he's a worldie? Great. That would be awesome. But I just think that that's the fact that we have Smith Rowe and Saka at the same time coming through as real stars is, it's a gold mine for Arsenal, right? And it doesn't happen very often. So I think we should also temper our expectations of just how good some of these younger players coming through the academy are. Now, do I hope they're all superstars? Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's somewhat unlikely.
I would have loved to see the game that was postponed, the Spurs game. I would have loved to see some of them kids thrown out in that game. I would have. I would have. Arteta wasted a good opportunity there to see what we have in reserve.
Jesus,
Look, forget about who we were playing.
That game is going to be the difference between 4th and 7th.
Being honest with you, being honest now, I can't see us getting 4th now. We're not making a major signing at this window. I think Arteta's probably treading on dangerous ground now.
Hang on a second, Jonathan. I need to stop you there now. He
has to get this right now.
Arteta is not responsible for bringing players into the club. So can we stop all this Twitter nonsense? Seriously now, Arteta doesn't. Edu is the man responsible for bringing players into the club, right? So can we get off this kind of we need a big name manager buzz, right? And we look at. I heard some of the noise from the same carry on last night about look what Tottenham did in the window. Well, they got rid of Dele Alli, who many would believe still has potential to be a serious player, right? They got rid of Lo Celso, who they invested heavily in, and they got 2 Carlos kickaballs from Juventus. So, let's, and saying, who are the 2 guys they got in Juventus? Fellas that couldn't break into a Juventus team that plays in a very ordinary league. So, can we put things into perspective here, folks, right? And not be losing the head, right?
Let's be honest, Spurs aren't on our level, Eamonn. They never will be. We're obviously
they are, Jonathan.
They're nowhere near. Positions mean nothing. It's
the last. If you finish 4th, you play in the Champions League, and if you finish 5th, you don't.
Look, I don't know why. In my opinion, why we went for Arteta, I don't get it. I would have liked to see an established manager. That's my opinion. I would have liked to see a manager that had experience of winning trophies season on season. Why do we keep?
It worked out great for Everton.
Well, Emery had experience of winning trophies.
Yeah, I would have, as I said to you, Eamonn and John, on previous episodes, I liked Emery, and I don't think he was given a chance.
We were in relegation trouble.
he would have turned it around. We always press, it's easy to sack. The language as well, barrier was his downfall as well.
So it's grand. Though, like,
right, so here's the question:
a course in advanced English while we're in the next division.
If this does turn out to be a bad second half of the season, and Arteta is got rid of.
But okay, fair enough. Look,
if you were given the reins, Eamonn, okay, as chairman, who would you bring in as a manager then?
I would. Well, at the moment, I'm not going to be the Arsenal chairman. So let's not ask. No, let's not ask silly questions.
You
right?
need to have.
No. Well, now, John, you've asked your question. Let me answer. Right?
This is so frustrating.
I'm not going to be the chairman. But what I will say is that I hear people in this noisy arena and everything. Why didn't he get this? Why didn't he do that? What? Arteta's there to manage the football team. Edu was there to recruit the players, right? And and I know there's collaboration between the two, but it's not just a question of identify John Melia and then go out and buy him. It's not that. It's all of it's all of the things that don't happen in FIFA Manager, right? that you have to contend with. So if there's a kind of a little smear on Arteta because of the transfer window, I think it's grossly unfair.
Do you think Edu is the right man for the transfers, Martin?
I don't know.
Well, let's say it like that. In the summer, he was the big man, wasn't he? All the transfers they did in the summer they turned out well. And as I said today, I think on WhatsApp, I was having a conversation with somebody, or Morris, really, talking about like if the players read what the fans say before they actually been signed. I don't know how Ramsdale actually signed for us. Because like Jesus Christ, that young fella got some of trouble in it. And he came in like, and now he's the best besides sliced bread, and that's kind of the funny part about it. But like Edu was like an absolute hero in the summer. 5 signings, they all who didn't turn out well. Lokonga didn't get really much a chance, but Tomiyasu, we never heard of him. Now we didn't sign anybody. Great. I don't know, like if it was intention to do, like not signing anybody, but look, he's going to be judged on next week in the summer's window. That's going to be it, and that's, as I said, that's the last chance saloon. So they have to get it right because this is the long-term project. If you don't get it right in the summer, then we're in trouble. But look, as I said, I think Edu had made a good thing in the summer, so last year, so I think it was good.
John, what do you make of it? Do you think Edu should be still there deciding on transfers?
Yeah, last summer was the best summer's business we've done in donkey's years. And
do you think, though, as well? Sorry, John, to cut across you. Do you think the whole Super League debacle forced the Arsenal owners' hand to give him money? Do you think if that didn't come up, we think it was April, do you think he would have been given that sort of money to sign them players?
If it hadn't come up, I think. I mean, it's the club needed investment, and they wanted to back the manager, so they had to do it. So the manager and Edu, they identified what needed to be done. They found the players that they liked. They spent the money and they got them in, and so I like them all. There's no you can
the summer signs I've no fault with.
But you can see the talent. Belmoy has turned out to be absolutely superb. Give them a little bit of credit, and Ramsdale has been superb, much better than I thought he would have been.
So he's my man of the match every week.
And he can identify the players that will kick us onto the next level next summer. He's aimed that right. And that's what the Arteta thing, I think it's ridiculous. This is a plan. They've already said 3 or 4 year plan. And as Eamonn has said, consistently since the start of this season, the club is in dire straits. This needs the whole clear out. And that's what we've been doing. We're getting rid of players who are not contributing anymore, just taking the big paychecks and not doing the business on the pitch. And that's been put a stop there. So, this is rebuilding the club basically from scratch. We're probably a little bit more further ahead than we thought we would be, because top 4 is attainable, and that's probably the most frustrating thing about January.
It's probably
that was
even more than building it from scratch.
Well, we needed a striker, and in fairness to Edu and the club, they identified the striker and they went heavily for him. But it just wasn't going to happen. So
well, we should have gone out and got him, John. We should have gone out and got him. Put him in the boot. Good fellas. Jimmy Conway.
Credit,
Eric, do you think Arteta is walking the line if we don't get 4th place come the end of the season?
No,
absolutely not.
You'd like to see him stay.
I just think that ultimately 4th place is not how this team is going to be judged. We have a good opportunity, and I hope we can take advantage of it. But I mean, did anybody predict we'd finish 4th at the start of the season?
No.
And if you did, you probably thought Aubameyang was going to score 25 goals this year. So, I just can't see why he would be judged on 4th place. Now, look, if we don't get Europe again, I think that would be a demonstrated failure on their part, considering they have a clear 17 match run-in. And let's be clear, the timeline of that 17 match run-in is looking pretty good for us. Like, we play again on the 10th, right?
Yeah.
Have a match a week later. And right now, don't have another match scheduled until March.
That's right, yeah.
So there is a ton of room for us to say, well, what's our best team? And we're going to put them out there for every single match and just go for it. And so, to my mind, if for whatever reason we don't finish at least in the Europa League places, I think the real question should be asked. And look, I think that, to my mind, that's sort of a fair judgment from a results standpoint. But I'm actually much more focused on our overall performances and the process that has taken place over the course of this season, because early on, and post those first 3 matches, which were very distorted for a number of reasons around COVID cases and all the rest. But, when we started playing, I think we beat like Norwich 1-0, Burnley 1-0, and we weren't really creating much chances.
Yeah.
I thought the match we drew Burnley, we probably played better than the match we beat them.
Yeah.
Right. We created more chances,
really,
had more shots,
yeah.
everything else. So to my mind, that's actually where my focus is what are the performances look like? How many chances are we creating? How many shots are we getting off? Because everything from a process standpoint has shown that we've progressed over the course of the season to not only be solid defensively, but to just create more, to cause more trouble to the opposition. And I think overall that's where he should be judged. Are we gonna, we're taking this standpoint that we're gonna start Lacazette, and we were doing that before he left, right?
Yeah.
So ultimately, it's on Arteta to show that he's got a system and a process that's going to create enough chances to at least give us a good go at the top 4. If we miss it, we finish 5th or 6th. But it's close. I don't think that you can say too much bad. Like it, we're playing mostly kids. We have no depth to speak of right now. And like, if we get 4th, Jesus, that'd be some kind of accomplishment looking forward at the run-in. So to my mind, I don't think that I'm necessarily worried about Arteta going into this, because we have shown progress. I would be really concerned if we went back from the changes. We've been playing with a lot higher press, a lot more energy in attack. We've really started to push people back and get a lot of shots off. And I think that's the real key. Now, if we roll back and start playing and sitting deep and playing really slow tempo football, I'll be very concerned about what we're trying to accomplish on the pitch. But right now, what I'm seeing is Arteta finding answers. And, look back at that Man City match. Were you sitting here going, Jesus, the manager was the problem in that match? Like, I don't think so. I think we set up really well to have a go and probably should have beat Man City.
Beaten City, yeah, I agree.
And there was a couple key decisions that didn't go our way, but ultimately, I think that from what I've seen, the manager is actually really starting to make progress as he's bringing in players. And so, now, if we go and really do invest this summer, and then we're talking about this conversation next season, maybe you'd have more of a point. But I don't think that we can sit here and say, oh yeah, like, it's Arteta's reason we were finishing 7th or 8th when we were finishing 7th or 8th before that. We just haven't been good for a number of years, and we're finally showing signs of life. And so, to my mind, like, Arteta's earned the chance to keep moving with the project. And I think there'll be an interesting discussion about whether or not they go give him a contract at the end of the season to make sure he's invested in the project long term. And I bet you're going to see Martinelli and Saka sign on the deadline again for a much bigger pay rise too. So I actually think that there's a couple key cogs in this project, and Arteta is probably one of them right now. Now, and long may it continue that we actually continue to show that sort of progress over time.
Could I ask you a question, Jonathan?
Here we go.
Like, what do you mean by a big name manager? Give me some examples of big name managers.
Well, Pep Guardiola is one.
Pep Guardiola. So do you think we can just knock on Man City's door and get?
Well, if we're being realistic and we want to go for titles, they're the type of managers you want.
But hold on. So how do we get him? How does that work?
You throw your money at him.
And what about players?
Obviously, that's going to be the plan before you
just throw money at everything and that's it.
No, well, these managers have a plan before they come in and what they want to do.
So you actually seriously think that Arsenal would have a chance of getting Pep Guardiola from Manchester?
Well, that's an example, Eamonn. Obviously not, because
the probably wasn't the best one. Let's go again.
No, but
let's run down through the list.
Our club is a mess at the moment, Eamonn. But if
we're going to come out, I have to come back to this. If we're going to come out with comments about we need a big name manager, I need to nail this one.
Obviously, Arteta isn't a long-term answer.
I need to nail this one down. What's a big name manager? Is it, Allegri from Juventus or somebody?
We need to get proven managers in. We need to get proven managers in that know how to win.
Proven managers. So, would you take Conte, for example?
I probably would, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what he'll do. He'll do a Mourinho. He'll come in for 18 months and he will destroy any of the progress that we've tried because he'll try and get a quick fix. And watch what's going to happen then. They are in huge debt, right?
But how long can Arsenal fans wait, Eamonn, before the Premier League title is back?
Little spoiled brats like you, Jonathan, they never had to wait at all.
As Arsene Wenger said, 4 plays was like winning the league. Like, what a statement to make, and it shows where the club was.
So I
you know what I mean? We were
in relegation trouble, Jonathan.
But are we a big club? I often question that.
So Jonathan,
it's been bizarre the last 20 odd years.
I think that we have to take a step back here in terms of what that means anymore.
Yeah, because we don't have the financial injection.
We've got wealthy owners that are only willing to take money in and not spend it. Why have them at the helm? This was always my argument. Never let foreign investors in. That's the only rule.
Have you looked at the books? Have you any proof of that?
Well, clearly haven't invested anything in, only because of last summer, because the Super League debacle went on.
I'm not an apologist.
If that Super League debacle didn't happen, we would have signed no one.
I'm not an apologist for the owners, but they're neither one, war criminals, or two, they don't own a country. So I mean, let's put things into perspective, shall we? And let's have another conversation.
If they were being serious, they would have thrown money into this club properly. They haven't. And the only reason why they did last summer is because they were forced by fan power.
You know that, do you?
Well, it clearly was. If we entered the Super League, there would have been no fans at any matches this season. So there you go. Fans were willing to walk away from the club. Would you actually? Here's a question for our audience.
You sound like Adrian Kennedy here.
Would you have liked to join the Super League instead of being in the Premier League?
Well, I think this is the problem with the whole Super League. The Super League was never meant to replace the Premier League. It was basically like a new Champions League, which basically is run by the next corrupt people, the FIFA and UEFA. So they're doing exactly the same. And the biggest things for all this was Sky, because they didn't get the rights to show it. So I don't think they would have replaced the Premier League. You would have played on a Wednesday in a different country with different kind of teams, whatever.
I would have liked to see that, Martin.
The only problem what I had with the Super League is that you couldn't get relegated. So you didn't have to fight to be in it. So it's becoming like the NFL, kind of like where you can't get relegated. And that's kind of like what didn't work. And that's what the fans didn't work. But look, we're watching Champions League games. Why couldn't we watch the Super League? With really attractive, make it a bit bigger.
Yeah.
But and look, there's parts for it, but like it would never replace the Premier League. I don't think it would be able to. And the only ones who, as I said, were moaning were the people who made money now with what's going on now. So they just didn't want to share their cake. And that's the problem. And the Super League is not off the table. Give it another 5 years.
Yeah.
This is going to come back one way or the other.
Yeah.
Because like FIFA and UEFA cannot go on the way they go on now.
Yeah.
And just like milk the system and the thing for it's going to kill football. But look, it's just, there has to be something else be done. But like, yeah, it's like, I would have liked to see it, but
I would have liked to see it, yeah. If a man playing top teams week on, week out, I absolutely see no problem with it. But if people want to see the likes of Burnley and Norwich every week, so be it.
Well, I have to say,
you know what I mean.
I have an identity. I have an identity with my football club, right?
But times change, Eamonn.
But
people
listen,
aren't open to
sorry,
change.
I'm allowed having, Jonathan, despite your opinion, I'm allowed having an identity with my own football club. There's a reason why I supported the Arsenal, right? And there's a reason why I stuck with them through thick and thin. And let me tell you, pal, right? In the 70s, we were avoiding relegation on a regular basis, right? And then a team of youngsters came along, spearheaded by Liam Brady, and energised the place, right? And I have a value with that. Right, but what I have no value for is that we just play a game of Monopoly where the wealthiest wins. That doesn't interest me in football.
Yep.
It doesn't. I'd rather go off and stay with Bohemians, than have.
But if it brought in good money for the club, Eamonn, it would be a worthwhile consideration.
So I think
you know what I mean?
We need to draw back this discussion a little bit because on one level, like, yes, the Super League would bring in a ton of money for the club.
Yeah, but you have to think of that long term.
But it also fundamentally changes what the club is involved in.
Changes the Arsenal.
Yeah.
But as Martin said earlier, it was never to replace the Premier League. It was a midweek idea.
Sure. But you got to remember the whole point of it, right, was to consolidate money in a big few clubs where they didn't share that wealth with anybody else.
Yeah, well, it
guaranteed that there was going to be something like 15, 16 clubs in the world that had all of the money and all the best players and nobody else, right? And look, I grew up in the States. I watched franchise sports. That's how it's all set up, and that's all the Super League is.
Yeah,
it is turning all of those clubs into franchises of a specific league, and there are a whole lot of reasons why that works as an economic model because, as Eamonn rightfully said, it's a monopoly. It just totally dominates the market. But yes, it probably puts the best players into one showcase, right? So the question I think more is along the lines of if we're actually talking about, why something should be in a Super League or why a club would or wouldn't want to do it, it's like, well, if a Super League's going to happen, do you want to be in it? Yeah, probably, because like otherwise you're going to be on the outside looking in going, Jesus, we don't have any of the good players and everybody else does, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing to do, right? Like there's a sort of difference there, and I think, like, I told John this at the time when they announced it. I was like, yeah, I have a hard time feeling bad for UEFA like over the whole thing. It's like they're pretty shit too, but I think that there is a fundamental issue of competitiveness in world football, and particularly in Europe right now. Yeah. And I think this would only make the problem worse, not better. And I think that that's the real issue for me, is that I actually think that the biggest thing that could happen is that UEFA, which, obviously won't do anything, but really looking at ownership rules in general, where, you look at the German model among others, though the German model doesn't quite work because Bayern Munich just buys all the best players. Yeah. But like something along those lines that actually bothers to say, the whole point of this is to be a real competition. And it's no longer a competition at the point that the only thing that matters is money.
But
Eric,
and the only thing that
matters
is
money
just on that, because I'm very interested in what you're saying, because you from the States and franchise sports and all that, right? But supposing, this genuinely now, right? Supposing the Arsenal decided, a bit like the Rams did, to relocate from North London to Nottingham. Would you lose your identity with the club? Because I can tell you, for one thing, I would. I would. Even though I'm not from North London, it's my second home. I've been there 300 times. It's my second home, 400 times, and I would lose my identity with the club. And Jonathan, you referenced if you want to watch the likes of Burnley and
I don't think they would have moved Arsenal out of the North London name. That was never the aim.
No, you see, with franchise sport, you see, you don't know. This is the point.
I don't think they would have named.
You referenced if you want to watch the likes of Burnley and Norwich. It's a bit like, I like the smell of the streets. I don't mind watching Burnley and Norwich from time to time.
But when you know you're done
at least they retain their moral courage. Their moral courage. They retain moral courage.
So, lads, briefly, okay, and I don't want to throw this out onto the floor. Do you think these US owners are going to bring Arsenal the Premier League title in, say, 2 to 3 years? I start with Martin first. Do you think that's it? Do you think that's a realistic?
If we could predict it, would be great. I'm sure they don't go into it and say why we don't want to win it. I'm sure they have ambition. They want to do it. The problem is the Premier League is the hardest league in the world, and there's 7-8 clubs who can actually win it. So they need to invest. That's one thing for sure. But they have we're coming back to Arteta. He didn't have to build a club from the scratch. He actually had to bulldoze it first to rebuild it. So that's kind of what actually took a long time than anything else before. But anyway, I think if they invested and they're on the right way, in my opinion, if they do a good job in the summer, there could be a possibility. It's not going to be easy, because look at Liverpool. They went with Man City toe to toe, and they played was it 2 points, and what 95, 97 points.
Yeah,
that's the way the Premier League is.
Yeah,
and we have now 10 teams that can compete for the top 6, and that's where we are at the moment. But if we invest properly and we can get the right players, I think there is a chance. There's a chance all the time. So, but yeah, this ownership thing for anybody. Look here, Kroenke is just a small boy now compared to the Arabs, isn't it? The amount of money he has, even if he puts his wife's fortune to it, he still hasn't got what they would spend on anything. So this is the problem what we're going to face. If there's 3 or 4 more coming in and buying the likes of Burnley or I don't know, whoever, Norwich, and make them a superpower. Because if Newcastle is going the way they do and they buy everything, they will be like the Man City. The worst thing for them can happen is that they get relegated. Then they have an extra year, which is going to stop them from doing that. But look, I think they can do it. They want to do it because, Eric knows that, if you have an English football team for an American owner, that's flagship. That's your prestige when you go to a party. Who do you own? I own a basketball team. I own a football team. And they don't want a relegation team in the Premier League. They want a Premier League winning team. And, as I said, but it's not that easy to do. It's the hardest league in the world. So they should want to do it, and they can do it.
John, briefly, do you think the US owners, can they deliver the Premier League title is the main thing?
As Martin, I'm agreeing with Martin. I mean, you don't need to be billionaires and throw hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions to build a team that can win the title. You need to be smart. Liverpool are not owned by Saudi Arabia or Abu Dhabi or Dubai. They got clever, they invested well, they got a good coach in, and they built a team over 4 to 5 years, and they won a league title. You need to be clever. Now, last summer, I think we got really clever in the transfer market. Who's to say that's not going to happen next summer and the summer after? This is not going to happen next season. Maybe the season after we might get closer. I mean, genuinely, it's not about winning. I want to see us compete. That's what it's about, compete.
It's competing. It's competing against the top 6 or top 4. Sorry,
But everyone wants to see Arsenal compete for the title. No one is guaranteed has a God-given right to win the league title every year. Nobody. Man United fans, fuck them. Liverpool fans, fuck them. They think they have a divine right, they don't. At the beginning of this season, we thought, okay, who's the top three going to be? We knew it was going to be City, we knew it was going to be Chelsea, we knew it was going to be Liverpool. But no one could predict who was going to win it. We could have all had different opinions.
Yeah.
It's City. City have produced the most consistent football so far this season. They will win the league. You know, Chelsea fans thought they had a chance. Liverpool thought they had a chance. It's not going to happen this season. They're going to bounce back next season. They're already rebuilding. We have to rebuild. We have to be clever in the market. It's as simple as that. And who's to say we won't? And as for the owners, they have thrown a lot of money at the club. We've just spent it badly. Gazidis was a muppet. Sanley was a muppet. You know, we threw money away in huge contracts and it hasn't worked out. And now, as Martin says, we're taking the bulldozer and rebuilding. And this is what the club needs to do. So you give it a couple of years and see where we are.
Yeah,
you know, to say you have a divine right to win the league title, give me a break.
As you said, it's competing is the main thing, and we haven't been competing.
I just want to say here that John's point's really important.
Yeah, this is about competing.
John's point is really important about competing, because I think that, like, look back at Liverpool's title run. They set a Premier League record the year before for points in a season, and they didn't win the title. Right? Like, because City put up a crazy amount of points. Like the level that you have to reach to win the Premier League now is you have to be good enough to win the Champions League, and that's it. You have to be the best team in the world. Like, that's the level we're talking about here. And the challenge of getting there, and the challenge of getting there when you don't have £1 billion to spend every year, is it's much harder. The margins are narrower. So, like, any year, no matter what Arsenal does, they have a lower percentage chance of winning than any of these Saudi or Abu Dhabi owned clubs, right? Because ultimately the margin for error is less. I mean, look at United. United has spent a crazy amount of money, and they're fighting with us for fourth, right?
Yeah.
And so I just really don't think that I think we need to really talk about, like, process. What are we doing? Do we think we're going in that right direction? Because I think that if we're just talking like next year, are we going to compete for a title? Like, that's crazy talk. Look at Man City's bench. Like, it's crazy. Like they have...
That's only the bench, not even the players that are sitting on it.
Yeah, I mean, but seriously, like the level that Arsenal has to get to even compete for a title. To even compete for a title, it is just so beyond what it used to be, and it's only going to get harder with Newcastle spending, unlimited funds.
Yeah,
and so I just think that, like, as we talk about expectations, as we talk about how we're judging this, like, just saying, oh yeah, are we going to win the title? Are we even competitive for the title? Like, Manchester United's not competitive for the title. Chelsea this year, not really competitive for the title, right? And they spent what, 90 million on Lukaku in the summer. So it's like money is great, and you can spend loads of it, but, like, even then, it doesn't get you close to what Manchester City's doing. And, like, look at Liverpool. Like, yeah, they made a ton of smart buys and everything else to get where they're going, but they bought Van Dijk and Alisson for, like, 150 million between the two of them. And then on that, if you start to look at, like, what their salary levels are compared to Arsenal, they're paying way more in salary to a lot of those guys, right? And so, money is the biggest differentiator between all these top clubs and everyone else. But even then, you have to be on it. You have to be perfect just to compete with a club like Man City.
I mean, Eric, that's a great point, because we all look back fondly at the '98 team, right? With Bergkamp and Wright was there, and it was his last season, and Petit and Vieira in the middle of the pitch, and Keown, but all that type of thing. We got 76 points that year. We won the title. We won the title on 76 points. You know, if we get 76 points now, you're 20 points off the title. And that's where it is, you know?
Yeah, it's a long way. It's a long way back
the pace to win the title now is 100 points.
Yeah. That's where the bar is set. Yeah.
But that's what I mean. Is like the idea that Arsenal is going to go from a number of seasons where they only had 60 some points, and that's under Wenger, that's under Emery, that's under Arteta.
This is like, the most optimistic show, Eric. How dare you quell that? No, look, we are a long way off, and it's going to take a lot of transfer windows to get us back to the glory days of the Invincibles, if ever. You know, that was a once-off thing, and I don't think we'll ever see the likes of that again. But look, here's hoping a very bad transfer window all in. We move on to our midterm season review.
We've had it
after a shocking August. What were the standout games after August for you? Sorry, with Martin. What games that stood out for you?
Well, the first game we won after the 3 games we lost. No.
Yeah, that was Norwich, the most dire game I ever watched. Yeah.
Look, I don't think there's one specifically sticking out for me, but like it's just kind of that we actually like changing to Ramsdale in goal that made a big difference for me. And the first 3 games are just like I don't know what happened. Yeah. And it actually does make our statistics really, really bad. Because we conceded 9 goals, you know, and I don't know, like since then we have like 11 clean sheets or 10 clean sheets. But yeah, I don't think there's any specific game for it. It's just like you can see that they are moving in the right direction. That's good. Like obviously, the best game we played since for me was still the City game when we lost it. You know, like we played against Burnley, we won it, and we played a better game, as Eric said. Like, you know, the draw we had last week or 2 weeks ago. So it's just like that. They are pulling in the right direction, and I think that's the important thing for me to see this thing. But then all of a sudden, like, you know, they throw in some howlers, and that's the baffling thing. It's the same team, you know, and then it just doesn't work out. So you just wonder, like, you know, what's happening there. But like that, it is what it is. It's a young team, as they say. Like you need to have something, you know, some mad decisions from referees as well. But yeah. But yeah, nothing really sticks out. It's just like seeing the progress for it. I think that's a good thing for the whole season so far, and hopefully we can continue that now in the next couple of games.
I think the most refreshing thing, aside from where we lie in the league, is the progression of Saka, Smith Rowe, and Ramsdale in particular. It's the progression of the players since August in particular. I think with the whole COVID thing, we didn't get a proper pre-season. I think that's why August turned out the way it did. But, you know, I definitely the Spurs game was actually the 3-1 victory at home was the one I said, hang on, there's something good here.
Yeah.
You know, that first half where we scored 3 goals, Smith Rowe was unbelievable in that game, and so was Saka, you know, and I says, after the first 3 games, I says, I honestly thought Arteta was on the rails. You know, I think he probably thought himself he was, but the lineups we hadn't done before 3 games just weren't the Arsenal team we were going to see throughout this season. You know, and it's proved. I think half the players haven't even featured in those games.
And plus, we played the top teams. Like, you know, we played Man City and we played the Brentford game. Look, that's
they were always going to be up for that, weren't they? Yeah,
100%. And it didn't help us with the COVID results. So, but as I said, take out the first 3 games, and then we would actually be quite all right there, you know. But we played them, lost heavy. But look, that's what it is. Obviously, Spurs can be always like to win against Spurs. You know, we had a great first half, kind of fell back, and that again is just like that we hadn't got the stamina to go through. That's it. Yeah. Well, it's a good thing for, and as well as I think the important part of it is like, we are actually banking on English players now, and that's another thing we have in the coaching team. They know what's coming down the line 2-3 years time. This is gonna where we need to be building up. That where we looking at foreign players, you know, that they can't get in, that the squads are going to be smaller. You know, you don't have any many people on loan. So I think that's a good strategy, and that's kind of like what I like about like what happened in the first half of the season.
John, what was the game in the first half of the season that said to you, hang on, we've got something here under Arteta?
Spurs game, you mentioned it. Those young players came in and you saw what their potential is. And that's what we're talking about with this national team. It's all about potential at the moment. So, you know, these young players are what's going to drive us. The new player, Tomiyasu, came in and amazed everybody against Spurs.
Yeah.
Ben White is stepping in, getting more games. He's starting to look the player that we hoped he'd be. So it's just potential. And that's, you want Arsenal to maximise that potential by investing the next stage. So we're in the progress of building something. That's it. We can all see what this team is capable of, especially the game against Man City. So it's just about, it's the potential's good. The coach knows what these players are capable of. It's getting that level of consistency. Young players are going to make mistakes. We've seen that with Gabriel and he's standing off. It's a work in progress, and I'm excited to see what the next stage is. I'm just really disappointed we didn't get the striker we all wanted in January. So that would have really topped it off.
Yeah, it would have. Yeah. It was disappointing not to see anyone coming in. Eamonn, what was your standout moment of the first half of the season that stood out for you? You know, as here we go.
Yeah, well, I've been at a few games this season. The standout for me is the crowd and how they've connected with the team. But the standout game was actually West Ham in December, because we played them off the park, and they were the team that everybody was talking up about. Move over Arsenal, move over London. You know, by the way, I have a bit of time for the Orange because they have a common enemy. You know, they used to sing at us, "We hate Tottenham more than you." So, but we really, I was there that night, and the atmosphere was electric, and we played them off the pitch. And as I said, I was behind the goal when Martinelli put that first one in, and it was like the early 1970s the way the stadium erupted. So for me, that's the standout game. That was the one that I took, the most pleasure from.
Eric, what was your standout moment from the first half of the season for us?
Yeah, so I thought I was going to be clever and say West Ham myself, because actually, in fairness, that's the game that stood out most to me. I actually think like the Spurs game was maybe the most fun, right? Because we battered them, and they get battered wherever they go. But the thing about that match was every good thing we really did was mostly on the counter. And we didn't actually, if you look back statistically at that game, we didn't create a ton, right? We created the chances, we scored, and maybe one or two others, but other than that, we were just very efficient that match, and we kind of took advantage of all their weaknesses in that first half in particular. But West Ham was a totally different thing. We went into that match and we just said, we're better than you. And we pushed them back, and we dominated the ball, and we dominated that match. And that to me was the sign of, we have moved from a team that, knows that they have a bit about them and can do some things on the counter like we did against Spurs too. We are going to batter you. We are going to dominate possession. We're going to dominate territory. And I think that's actually, if you look at the rest of December in particular, that's what we did.
Yeah.
And we had a great month that month because of that. And so to my mind, actually, that's the big one, because I think we had played Southampton just before that, and we had a shite first half. But then that second half, we came out, and that's the way we played. Is we dominated that match. We dominated them territorially, possession, chances, and we finally put enough pressure on them that we won that match. And it just goes back to what I was saying last week about the Burnley match, where I wasn't all that upset, because we sort of did the same thing. We just didn't manage to kick the ball in the goal. But I think as long as we're playing football that really sees us owning the ball and creating chances, especially clear-cut chances, like the one that even Lacazette missed in that Burnley match, like, I think we're going to be at least in with a shout for that fourth and fifth spot. Now the big question is probably injuries around that, but to me, like the West Ham match was that first match where I went, oh, this is different to what I've seen under Arteta before. It was a match where we just decided we were the best team on the pitch, and we showed it.
I think my standout moment, lads, was at the game that stood out for me in the first half of this season was the away game to Leeds, the way we silenced them, and the way Martinelli got 2 quick goals, you know, and Ellen Road's a tough place to go, but it showed that day we weren't afraid to go to places of that hostile atmosphere, you know. We silenced them, played them off the park, and we followed that up then with another away victory on Boxing Day against Norwich. We hammered them 5-0. And I think, as Eric said, December was a good month. You know, we made a statement of intent there. It's just January hasn't been the best of months. But you're bound to have this, you know, I suppose you're bound to have these bad months at this midway stage of the season. Wolves away is going to be tough. If you get anything there, because they're on a good, they're the dark horses. They're coming into a bit of form now. I think they'll be challenging for Europe themselves.
They will.
And I think at home to Brentford, I think that could be another dodgy one as well, because they've signed Eriksen.
They're all dodgy.
You know, it's going to be an interesting second half of the season.
Jonathan, can I just mention that Leeds game, because that's a standout moment for me as well, because Martin here gave me a beautiful Dublin Arsenal Supporters Club calendar, and he gave me COVID the same night.
So frustrating.
So frustrating, David.
What a nice Christmas present you gave him, Martin. How do you feel about that?
Oh yeah, don't know who gave who what, but anyway.
I won't ask how it was received, but you gave him something anyway.
Oh yeah. Oh well.
These things happen.
Look, at least we boosted ourselves, you know, so we didn't need any foreign things going into our bodies.
The Ralph Hassan Hotel way, yeah. Heavy metal and rock and roll.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, so definitely. Do you all see, before we wrap up the show, it's been a good show tonight, do you see a positive second half of the season, lads? And position wise, starting with John, do you see us making Champions League or below?
I see us below, but I see it being a very interesting and competitive race. I think we could go close, but I think the lack of goals could count us in the end. Europa League, I think we should definitely get. I hope, fingers crossed. I'm not going to say definitely. We hope we should get at least Europa League, but I just want to see us competitive. I want to see us going. You know, but I just think the lack of goals could cost us. Yeah.
Eamonn?
I'd probably go along with that. I wouldn't rule out the top 4.
Yeah.
Other than my natural sense of pessimism. But I mean, I don't think we should be afraid to go for it, right? I think we're as good as what's in there, but probably, again, that unless we find internal solutions in the training camp in Dubai, and I wouldn't rule that out, you know. I wouldn't say they're over there in Dubai for the crack. I'd say they're working hard on formations and stuff. We've not a bad run of games coming up, and I think if I was a West Ham fan, do I think I'm going to get top 4? No. If I was a Tottenham fan, do I think I'm going to get top 4? Haven't a clue, Bill. I won't even talk about them. If I was a United fan, do I think I'm going to get top 4? I wouldn't be putting my money on that either. So that's the way I judge it. But probably on balance, maybe 5th, you know.
Martin?
Yeah, like, look, it's exactly that, you know. And I think the only good thing what stands to us is, like, we don't have to play as many games as the rest of them. Yeah. Some of them have to play 2-3 more games, you know, like they're in Europe, you know, they have to play Champions League. You know, they play each other as well. We don't have that bad of a run in. Obviously, there's tough games coming up, like Wolves is the first one, you know. But yeah, I think, look, they're over in Dubai. I'm looking at the videos, I'm looking at the pictures, they're training hard. I think it's the first time for, I don't know how long, that they actually been together as a team. You know, like, and actually working together, like, with, like, nothing. And they're coming back now. They play one game, then there's 9 days in the difference. And then there's 3 weeks nearly into the next game.
Yeah, true.
So they will have more training time in London as well. So again, they might use this time properly, you know, like, and get proper things done and internally. So yeah, I think there's definitely a chance. I'm not saying Ford. I hope to do, but yeah, Europe. I have to say that's probably, you know, a grasp. If we get Ford, I'd be delighted. Can't wait to go a Champions League game to Arsenal. You know, but yeah, look, we never would have thought it in the start of the season. That's it, especially not after 3 games.
Eric?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I think we're gonna run it close for 4th, simply because we know what we have to do. We have 17 matches. It's a straight sprint to the finish. I think United, as their own problems, could be a bit distracted because they're still in Europe. I think we're going to finish above Spurs, and I think the question is I think it's a dead heat between United and Arsenal for the 4th spot. That would be my view on the run-in. I think we have a favorable schedule coming up that I think does give us a chance to, if we can get past Wolves and Brentford, I think that really sets us up for a big time run-in, considering the amount of time and we have between matches right now.
Yeah.
To where we can really work to set ourselves up for that. And yeah, I honestly, the way we've been playing as of late, I would be surprised if we didn't run it close. To be honest, I think we've really started to turn up with some serious performances. And you look at the way even Saka is dribbling the ball out in the wings now. There's a few more step overs. There's a few other things like the confidence is serious in him, Martinelli.
Yeah.
And yeah, to John's point, the big thing is it's just going to come down to, can we score enough goals? Can we figure out a way to score enough goals? And I think there's a good chance that we do. I think we're scoring a lot of goals when we had a settled midfield because we were able to push the ball up the pitch more and really dominate some territory. And so to my mind, if we can, if we can avoid the kind of stupid amount of red cards and other things, and really just focus on our game, I think we have a good shot. I'd love to see us in the Champions League. I think that if I was a betting man, I'd say 5th, but I don't think by much. I think we have a real chance.
I think we've got I think we have a great chance of finishing 4th. As the teams above us have all midweek European matches as well and games in hand, so I think it might play into our hands, but definitely Europe. I think getting back into Europe next season is almost a given. I'll get back to you at the end of May with that prediction. It's the games before we finish up. It's the games in hand against Spurs, Chelsea, Liverpool. It's the way they will fall come the end of the season when they're rearranged is going to be the thing as well. 3 tough fixtures, so obviously they're going to be big ones, but we're all saying Champions League, Henry. Moving on from Arsenal, we've got to go there in a half after tonight. You can catch all the matches, of course, in the Dublin Arsenal Supporters Club in Dublin City Centre, of course. Eamonn, is it back to normal again? No social distancing and all? Is it like the good old days?
Well, we haven't had a game. But
that answers that. So
can I just say this: social distancing is no longer required by the public health guidance. That's all I say to you. And we have been compliant at all times with the public health guidance.
And Eamonn will probably buy you 3 pints when you get there if you're a newcomer. Is there anything else, lads, you'd like to add before we finish the show?
No, that's it. I think we've had a long one tonight.
Yeah.
As always, I'd like to thank my optimistic and pessimistic guests, John Meania, Eamonn Donnelly, Eric Shadowins, and our newcomer to the show, Martin Stummvoll, aka Ralph Hassan-Hutton. Hopefully you can bring us 4 plays since you came second half of the season. By far our best January signing in years, Martin, so I appreciate that. Aside from Kim Kallstrom. As always, you can catch our show on SoundCloud, Spotify, and on the Dublin Arsenal Supporters Club YouTube channel as well, which will be up tonight. So I appreciate everyone listening to us over the last 90 odd minutes or so. A great show, and we'll touch base again next Tuesday. So thanks for listening, guys, and have a good week.